And larger charities can afford to do that. And I would throw the gauntlet at the behest of larger charities and ask them why aren't they doing this, because they should be doing this.
Yeah.
Because they get volunteers. Leave the volunteers for smaller charities, and they should.
They should be maybe for. So, what do you think from an employer's perspective, and as a company in your position, what support do you think providers can give you or government can give you to improve that situation so you can take more apprentices on? What schemes do you think they should open up?
I think the first thing is we should be informed. There should be more clarity and greater information given to us. There's nobody who's telling us how much apprentices cost us, first thing. Second thing is, where do we get our apprentices from?
Mm-hmm.
We also need help in marketing what we want apprentices for.
Yes, of course. So you...
So I mean that would be really good for us if we could get some resources that would allow us to say, right, these are the areas, because in terms of our work, we don't just need apprenticeships around some of the things that you could get apprenticeships for, let's say for example clerical assistants, etc. I think the opportunity would be really to get apprenticeships in charity. So in other words, on the actual work that we do, not just the clerical stuff that we do, but the actual work that we do.
So in like running a charity sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, what happens when we are developing a children's home somewhere in Africa, getting involved in that from the planning process all the way through to the implementation, things like that make it much more exciting, much more interesting, and something that we then once the apprenticeship is over, value that this individual should remain within the organization.
Yes, of course, because what we I think what we would like to see is that if you take somebody on as an apprentice, they work with you, they finish a course in a year, 2 year time, whatever that is, then they do become your long-term employee as well, because obviously they've grown with you as an employee. So, and
I wouldn't want to lose anybody who works within Qaaf Aid. Even our volunteers, we want them to stay for life. And if we have an apprentice, we don't want to lose that skill to another charity or another organisation. We want them to remain within what we call the family of Qaaf. We want them to remain within that.
Okay. So. What do you do if your employee needs or wants some training or qualification?
At the moment, in terms of our employees and if they require any skills or qualifications, we provide that. We pay for that. We provide.
So you do that in-house?
Yeah. No, we look at sources. I mean, a classic example being, and this is not within a UK context, but we've just employed. For our children's home in Kenya, somebody realized she's a she meets all the criteria, but she requires certain skills in certain areas. So we're going through that process of her training, but we're outsourcing that, so she has to be trained elsewhere. And the same principle applies here. While I've been within the organisation, there hasn't been a requirement or anybody identified I want training on X, Y, Z. But if that would happen, then we would seek training facilitators that would fill that need.
Okay.
Just like to mention, if there's any employers out there who are looking to recruit an apprentice and are not sure how to, you can log on to www.apprenticeships.org.uk, and there's actually an employer inquiry form which you can fill in, and you'll get a response in how to go about recruiting an apprentice. And also there's a helpline for businesses, which is 08000 150 600. Once again, if you go on www.apprenticeships.org.uk, you'll find out all the information you need with regards to recruiting an apprentice. Just another question we'd like to ask you is, if are there any skills your company needs which would help grow the business, and if so, what are they?
I think any organisation needs skills or needs to develop itself, such as ours. It needs it in the areas such as marketing, for example, because marketing is one of those areas where I think we could really do with as much help and expertise as possible. And that's in a whole host of different areas, such as our website, its development, updating it, our marketing, and we have several times of the year when marketing is very, very important to us. And then, suddenly things happen, and we need to develop a leafleting campaign, for example, on certain new initiatives. So those sorts of areas of marketing, I think we could really, get a lot of help in.
Okay, and do you know of any other companies or employers who've employed apprentices, and do you know of their experiences at all?
Well, in previous experiences, I've been involved in a lot of different organisations that have taken up apprenticeships, particularly within the public sector, and it's worked really well for them. The thing is that this has not been, in my observation, not necessarily been the case with BME organisations, but in larger, public sector bodies. They tend to take up apprenticeships much more easier, maybe because they know they know a lot more about apprenticeships than BME sector organisations, and in those instances it's worked really well. I've not seen it very much in the BME sector.
Okay.
I may be wrong. It may be working all the time.
Well, I mean, I think that's what we're finding within the research as well, that most of the BME organizations or employers, private companies or not-for-profit companies, they don't tend to take on a lot of apprentices. So, and everybody's got their own reasons as well. What do you think? What makes BME businesses different to mainstream?
In terms of apprenticeship.
Well, as a business, because it seems like, and we could be wrong, but by the look of it, it's like BME employees have a very different way of running a business, maybe, or
well, BME. This is not to say that BME organisations are not professional. There's just a different way of looking at how you conduct yourself in business.
Yeah.
And we've seen that the BME community, in many, 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 many ways, has been much more successful than mainstream businesses in many different ways. There's different ways of operating. There's different ways of working. What I've seen in the South Asian community is a lot of the operations of the business work through either extended family or extended networks.
Mm-hmm.
So when you work through that process, there's a different level of trust that takes place, and that happens by way of you knowing someone in the family, or knowing someone in the extended family, or knowing someone that you know, and for some reason people then don't consider bringing in an apprentice because you don't know where this person's from. There's a level of trust or that isn't necessarily there, that would be there if it was an extended family network person. So there's these things that I think is a quite a big difference, and also I just think that in terms of BME communities, and the way in which they function themselves, they don't necessarily approach apprenticeships themselves. I mean, maybe this is something else as well. I know we're not talking about the employer there, we're talking about individuals, and maybe something needs to be done totally with the South Asian community in promoting apprenticeships and apprentices.
Okay, we're just going to quickly go on a quick break.
Sure.
If that's okay.
So we'll be right back after the break. Just for those that are listening to us, if you'd like to share your views as part of this show, you can call in on 0161 839 7857. You can listen to us live on the internet by logging on to www.awazcommunityradio.com. If you're just tuned in, you're listening to the Apprenticeship Hour. We have a special guest with us from Qaaf Aid, We'll be right back after this short break.
I've always had an interest in the media. I've always liked making my own short films, and it's always been a hobby of mine. So I knew that I wanted to be in the creative sector. So I just did a bit of research online.
I found out about apprenticeships through the National Apprenticeship Service. So I just looked for the criteria that I wanted to apply for.
In my application, I really wanted to prove that you have a passion for the media, and really kind of prove that you wanted to get into it, which I did.
So many things I like to do. It could be performing arts, it could be video production, it could be writing.
When I walked in on my first day to the company, I was feeling rather nervous. I didn't really know what to expect.
I was so shy, I'd be like bright red. I think that obviously working with people every day and loads of different people, then it's just build up your confidence.
It took me maybe a couple of months to sort of find my feet and sort of learn the process of how things work. But when that happened, my learning started to move a lot faster.
So I was doing so many different things. Sometimes I was, working with the art department. Sometimes I was like writing and stuff.
You learn on the job, you're always in that workspace. Just gone from the basics right up to where I am now, from the camera to the lights.
You're not getting yourself in a load of debt by going to university. You can test the waters of loads of different things.
It's building me as a person as well as building on my actual work skills.
I love the technology side of it, I love the people side of it. I enjoy to see a project come from literally nothing to just sort of expand into this massive project with all different people working on it.
You get such a view of the industry, you just get to know about everything.
After a few months of working there, I realised that the social aspect of work was just huge.
The apprenticeship's very good at kind of introducing you to such a huge range of people and building your network.
I think because of the apprenticeship, I've sort of found my role and my passion.
It makes me feel as if I'm like on the right path, I'm going somewhere, and I can see my goal at the end of it.
I just can't really imagine my life without the apprenticeship, because it gave me everything I've really always wanted.